crisis in the country has seemed to deepen as 33 more people succumb to the virus as of latest update. This is the first time that the country witnessed over 30 COVID-19 deaths for 2 consecutive days since the virus emerged in Nepal last year. The scenario only indicates that there are troubling days ahead and we need to maintain or remain more cautious in our fight against coronavirus. Good morning, I'm Sarah Sapsanama and these are the headlines of the hour. The Health Ministry says health system in the most affected districts at a breaking point, present spread rate worse than the peak surge during the first wave. The country witnesses over 30 COVID-19 deaths for the second consecutive day. Kathmandu Valley alone registers just under 3,000 new cases. The government projects the economic growth to increase by 4% in the current fiscal year. Economic growth rate last fiscal negative by 2.1%. And Punjab Kings defeats Royal Challengers Bangalore by 34 runs. Punjab skipper KL Rahul shines with the bat, scoring 91 runs. 33 individuals have succumbed to coronavirus in the country as of latest update, while 5,727 individuals have tested positive. The total number of deaths has now climbed to 3,279. The situation at the moment has been termed worse than the peak surge of COVID-19 during the first wave. According to the Health Ministry, about 37% out of the 15,391 samples tested positive for COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. Kathmandu Valley alone reported 2,956 cases of coronavirus. With this, the number of active cases of coronavirus in the country now stands at 38,813, 2,687 of whom are receiving treatment at various hospitals. 331 individuals have been kept in intensive care units, while 115 are on ventilator support. Meanwhile, 36,000 are in home isolation. The Health Ministry has said the rate of infection is spreading at an alarming rate in the most affected 22 districts and has urged the public not to take this situation lightly in any manner. The ministry issued a press release saying that the health system at the most affected districts is at the breaking point and that hospital beds could no longer be available to the COVID-19 patients. The Health Ministry has also appealed the government to halt all air and land transport services. The government has tightened the prohibitory orders in place in several districts, including Kathmandu Valley, following the Health Ministry's warning of the impending health crisis amid a daily surge in COVID-19 cases. Markets have remained shut on the third day of prohibition today. Both the private and public vehicles other than emergency services have been prohibited from plying on the streets. Only vehicles belonging to hospitals, municipalities, financial institutions, media and security institutions have been allowed to operate. Nepal Police and Armed Police Force personnel have been deployed at various junctions to strictly implement the prohibitory orders. Security personnel have also booked several vehicles for defying the prohibitory order. The local administrations have urged the public to refrain themselves from coming out except in emergency cases. Now, the number of COVID-19 cases at the Sagarmatha base camp is rising amid a surge in transmission rate. The source of coronavirus infection at the base camp is unclear, given that mountaineers arriving at the base camp must possess a negative PCR report. In the meantime, the government has not taken any initiatives to minimize the risk of virus transmission at the base camp.
A foreign national who had returned to the capital after falling sick at the base camp tested positive for coronavirus a few days ago. Another woman who had spent 12 days at the base camp returned to Kathmandu after she reported of health problems and tested positive for coronavirus. The woman's health condition currently is reported critical. Likewise, there are patients with pneumonia, altitude sickness and respiratory ailments at the base camp, while 4 individuals are isolated in a local hotel. A team of 3 doctors assigned to Lukla's only government hospital has been deemed insufficient. This scenario has meanwhile compelled mountaineers to mull returning from the base camp itself. The increased number of climbers and caretakers this time around has posed further risk if emergency rescue operations are to be carried out. Some 394 climbers representing 42 different teams have already received permission for mountaineering expeditions this season, the highest number till date. There are around 4,000 climbers and caretakers at the base camp, along with another 328 climbers who have been granted permission to climb various other mountain peaks. Meanwhile, the spread of the virus at the base camp is unclear, given that it is prerequisite to present a negative PCR test result for anyone who ventures at the base camp. The Department of Tourism, meanwhile, has claimed that initiatives are underway to minimize the risk of virus transmission.
The government has projected the economic growth to increase by 4% in the current fiscal year. The data was published by the Central Bureau of Statistics based on the assumption that the economic activities would remain normal in the next 2 weeks. Likewise, the Bureau has informed that the economic growth last fiscal year was negative by 2.1%. Prior to this, the government had published the data where it had put the negative growth rate at 1.99%, while the department on Friday made the amendment. It may be recalled that the government last fiscal year had projected 8.5% economic growth. Prior to this, the country's economy had registered negative growth by 1.3% in year 1979-80. The country's economic growth during the 2015 April earthquake and at the time of Indian blockade had dropped to almost zero, however remained positive without negative economic growth. In our Public Voice segment, we've asked local representatives in Sindhupalchok, Palpa and Bara districts what preparations have they made to protect people from COVID-19. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
नित्य चाहिँ साबुन पानीले हात धोऊ मतलब सम्पूर्ण नगरवासीहरूले मास्कको चाहिँ युज गरौँ मास्क लगाएर भिडभाडमा नजाऊ त्यसो कारण त्यस्तै चाहिँ हामी चाहिँ अब चारैतिर चाहिँ सूचना अहिले चाहिँ प्रवाह गर्दै छौं
यदि कुनै पेशेन्टलाई त्यस्तो पोजिटिभ पेशेन्टलाई यदि हस्पिटल पुग्न परेको बेलामा अक्सिजनको अभाव छ भने हामी यहीँबाट अक्सिजन दिएर पठाउँछौं के गर्नुपर्छ र उहाँहरूलाई हामीले कहाँ सम्पर्क गर्ने एम्बुलेन्सको लागि के गर्ने हस्पिटलको लागि के गर्ने भन्ने यस्ता कुराहरू हामीले जनचेतनाका कामहरू हामीले गरिरहेका छौं खास गरी विदेशबाट आएका मानिसहरूलाई उनीहरूलाई आइसोलेसनमा राख्ने स्वाब परीक्षण गर्ने
आइसोलेसन बेडको व्यवस्था गरेका छौं अहिले तत्काल 10 वटा बेडको व्यवस्था गरिएको छ
Time now for our segment Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion. The question is, what's your take on ongoing sports tournaments during prohibitory orders? Your options are A. Efforts to safeguard sports, B. Ignoring the risk, and C. Corporate pressure. The voting is on. Type NEWS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for our special segment, Media Watch.
The prohibitory orders issued by the government in a bid to break the chain of COVID-19 infection in 13 districts, including the 3 districts in the Kathmandu Valley, started from Thursday. The restrictions were placed for 2 weeks, starting Thursday morning, as the public has been barred from going outdoors except for emergency purposes. The COVID-19 Crisis Management Committee had recommended the government to impose prohibitions in urban areas with over 500 daily cases and rural areas with more than 200 daily cases. Meanwhile, Nepal recorded its highest single-day COVID-19 deaths on Thursday, as 35 individuals succumbed to the virus, with 12 deaths reported in Bakke district alone. Chief Minister of Gandaki Province, Prithvi Subba Gurung, expanded his cabinet on Thursday amid the vote of confidence registered against him at the Provincial Assembly. Rajiv Gurung, alias Deepak Manange, who was elected as an independent candidate from Manang B, was appointed as Minister for Youth and Sports. Newly appointed Minister Gurung, who took the oath of lawmaker only after a year, following a case under consideration at the Supreme Court, has largely remained a controversial figure. The iconic tower of Dharara, which had collapsed during the April 2015 earthquake, was inaugurated on Saturday, 24th of April by Prime Minister K.P. Sharma Oli. Premier Oli had himself laid the foundation stone for the construction of the new Dharara in an area of 42 ropenis on 28 December 2019. The new Dharara, which has been constructed beside the collapsed one, is situated in the heart of Kathmandu at Sundara. The new Dharahara, constructed with a budget of 3.48 billion rupees, is 22 stories high, although it looks like 11 stories from outside. The entire construction works of Dharahara are estimated to be complete in 9 months, after which it will be open to the general public. This is Abhyudaya Shrestha for Media Watch and Kantipur News Desk.
That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Have a great day ahead.